Here he is, in fact, in red. You can see his ID below the command center. It's Bbyong.
Bbyong to the left side of the map. Once again with his... I really love this yellow. What do you think?
Yeah, you know, players look good in yellow, I have to say.
Yeah. I actually look really silly in yellow.
Same, actually.
Especially with your hair.
Yeah.
On the right side of the map in blue, we have the Protoss player for Team MVP down a map already. It is the build order boss. It is Tails.
No. Don't use that acronym, though, because he doesn't go by Bob.
What?
The build order boss.
Yeah.
Don't make that into an acronym. Just call him build order boss. You have to say the full name.
We call him Bob from now on. He comes to the studio and we're like, "Hey, Bob," and he's like, "What?"
You gotta spell that builder boss. No Bobs. No Bobs about it. Well,
what do you think that Tails is going to do here? I mean, this map is pretty hard for him when it comes down to drop play. The third base is a bit exposed and the Terran player has so many openings. Do you feel he's going to put on the aggression, trying to hit a timing, or will he play the Zerda game here?
I would have to say probably he wants to put on a timing. He wants to at least do something unique, because not only is he not particularly strong or known for late game, but this is not a map that any Protoss can play late game on well. You have to basically outplay your opponent in almost every facet of the game to be able to take it on this map. He makes his second pylon on the low ground again. This is something he stylistically chose in both games. I really like that. It gives him vision of bunkering for when he puts that Nexus down.
Talking about bunkering and about barracks, we have a proxy barracks here for Bbyong. The first one in his main base, but opening with double racks here against his opponent. If Tails doesn't read this correctly, and as of now he doesn't really have the scouting information that he needs, I mean, he might be overwhelmed by this. He might not be ready.
You're certainly right, because... Well, is he doing the exact same build? Let me check that geyser. I believe it's only got 2, yeah. Only 2 in here. He may be doing the exact same build. It may plan a Nexus cancel on this map. The SCV comes in here. He's going to see the pylon on the low ground. And since he's scouting so early, he's going to be able to get in the main base as well to get that extra information. I think if... Yeah, there goes the Nexus in the exact same way we saw it last game. If Tails does the same build, he's going to get crushed because he doesn't have a lot of defense. It's all about that warp in and that timing. And at the very least, Bbyong will see it. But if Bbyong sees it with the attack and doesn't realize what's going on beforehand, then Tails could warp in units defensively. If he defends those Marines, you know, then Byong's in an awkward position because his reinforcements are in the middle of the map, his barracks out there.
I mean, right now we have for Bbyong no gas, so no refinery. He didn't start a command center yet. He's just cranking out Marine, and Marines. And of course also a few workers with the SCVs. One of them, by the way, still at the proxy barracks, not rallied back towards the mineral patches. Might be used later on to build a bunker. He might pull a few additional ones from the main base.
Yeah.
But this is definitely something where he could go all out. He could try to fall back into a command center.
He's just going to make 4 gateways again, it looks like. He could alternatively go 3 gateways and keep the Nexus alive and just put 3 gate pressure on. And he's not going to cancel the Nexus just yet if he does it at all.
Yeah,
he needs the pylon as well. It's definitely not going to be a cancel.
Yeah, I don't really think he's going to cancel it. He will this time try to play it a little bit more straight up. The Nexus is done. Command center started for Bbyong, who's currently starting to move across the map with his 10 Marines.
Yeah, 10 Marines versus 2 Stalkers right now. The Sentry is not quite there yet. This SCV is so important. He pulls it back. He wants to keep it alive. It's the only SCV he's got with him right now to make bunkers.
The Stalker already on full retreat, and now Tails has to be careful. He might lose his expansion here if he doesn't pay attention. We already have a bunker being built, and the Stalker dies. He doesn't migrate up the ramp. The second one trying to come in here, but this is a very dire situation for the Protoss player.
Yeah, Warp Gate research is done. He's got 3 Warp-ins. How's he going to use them? They're not ready yet. Doesn't even chrono boost on those. And the bunker will definitely finish. There's no way he can stop it. And this becomes a big problem for Tails. He's going to try. He will not be able to stop that bunker. He gets the attempt. He stops 1 Marine from getting inside.
And now we have more Marines being produced for Bbyong, who can rally them to the right side of the map, which is exactly what he does. He can even start a second bunker if he wants to. Needs to be careful here, of course. Tails has a lot of units, and now he has the warp gates ready. He can warp in a second wave, but this is a very, very dangerous situation for Tails. He has to be very careful how to approach it.
Yeah, if Bbyong doesn't pull more SCVs, though, I feel like Tails' second warp-in can break the bunker. He's going to warp in 3 more Stalkers now, and he will be able to save this Nexus for sure.
Yeah.
He may lose a Stalker in the process. It's all about the micro.
I don't think that he's going to lose the Nexus here. The Stalkers are pressured, but still with only 1 SCV being present for the repair, it's not going to be enough. And Tails takes it out right away.
Yeah, he loses a lot of hit points for it, though. He's got Guardian Shield now he can use, but he can't actually target the bunker down without another round of Warp into this time. The Stalkers are pulled to the back. He's going to go for it. This is a risky choice. The Stalkers at the back are not targeted just yet.
Nice focus firing here by Bbyong, taking down the sentry, trying to aim for another Stalker, but the Marines are just walking back now. Two of them with a bad rally die to the Protoss front. Well, yeah, right now, I mean, Tails is actually in a much better position than I thought he would be when I saw this running towards them.
I mean, this is going to put him in an awkward spot, though. You've always got to be careful about run-bys like this. It's a bit haphazard by Tails, I would say, to leave his probes here like this, knowing that all the Marines were not killed. But he will lose all the Marines. It's
and
he loses. I don't like pulling the probes back like this. I think it may be... I mean, yeah, he didn't lose any there, but that was a close call. Either way, it worked out.
Too many in general, if you think about it. We have 9 Harvester kills.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm awkwardly pausing like this is because I just got all tabbed out of the game. I'm very frustrated by that, guys, so I'm not going to... Because if I go back into the game, it may cause some lag. I'm actually just going to have to use only the observing PC for the rest of this game. I don't want to cause any lag problems for these players. But either way, there's 3 bunkers now up for Bbyong because he knows he needs to be on the defensive right now when he gets his tech up. He committed a lot of resources to that attack. He lost so many Marines going for the probes, even losing those extra Marines on the rally and the barracks that had to float back. He lost a lot of production time. This is a big attack by Tails.
Tails is moving in. The force field's in position to prevent the repair on the bunkers, and 2 of them die before the SCVs even arrive. One of them actually being saved. The force field is not in position, but in the end it dies nonetheless. Supply-wise, still a bit of a lead for Tails here. I'm not sure if he can crush this, so he
definitely couldn't. He could have maybe done it, but the thing is, now that he's waited, I don't think he is going to have enough with all the extra Marauders coming out and Stim being almost done.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if he can actually break through anymore. I think he may have to pull back, but he's done some damage and a lot of mine time is being lost here.
He tries it though. There are the force fields. He's moving in, and this bunker is going to die. He needs a little bit more firepower, and the bunker is now gone. But does Tails really have enough to force back this Marine force? And with the Marauders that you already mentioned, Wolf, there is quite a lot to defend this natural, especially now with the new bunker that he just built being completed.
Yeah, and Tails knows that this is not going to be the end game for him. That's why he's got 2 forges finishing up back at home. And of course, those sentries that he's got in the mix here, he pulls them back to make sure they don't die. Maybe getting a little bit overzealous there at the very end. Stim didn't finish during that fight, and that's really important because Bbyong could have actually cleaned this up a lot better with Stim.
Trying to kill a few of the SCVs, Tails that is, but he loses a Stalker in the process.
Yeah, you've got to be so careful about picking SCVs off like that. We saw when he tried to pick the SCV off earlier at the natural, he took a lot of damage on those Stalkers as well.
And now we have additional gateways in the main base of Tails. He doesn't even think about getting too much of attack. He's only going for the Forges and the Twilight Council, but we don't see robotics here. He just tries to get more gateways for the production. 5 additional gateways. He really wants to get the Blink upgrade, wants to get +1/+1, and I feel like he's just going all out with this.
Yeah, he definitely is. He's got to make sure, though, you know, when you get the Blink upgrade, it's very useful for defending drops, for example, but it is a vulnerability when you just attack straight up by ground. You don't have that area of effect damage, you don't have charge. It's pretty tough to fight against stimmed units with medevacs, especially when they start to get those upgrades out, like +1 is already finished right now.
1-1 nearly completed for Tails, which will give him a slight lead. The Guardian Shield, on the other hand, will help him in the fight later on. Combat Shield nearly completed for the Terran player. Of course, he is probably gonna wait until the upgrade hit before he actually attacks with the next wave. But this is a lot of production for Tails here.
Yeah, this is really... Oh, wow, this is a great position for him to catch the Protoss army. Totally in the choke point, but all the units are able to fire here, and 1-1 is done. It's not enough despite the position.
Tails, it looks like he has too much, but he has to move back since there are too many Marauders in the mix. But with this warp in, he could try to chase these units down. He could actually just try to blink forward.
In fact, I'm a little bit surprised he didn't blink forward there. You know, it was a close engagement, and the concave for Tails was actually kind of already formed, even though he's in that little choke point, so he was able to get most of his Stalkers firing. But you're so right, with that warp in, he could have chased, but he wants to be very safe here. He knows he took a fight regardless. Look at the supply, though, and look at the production tab. Bbyong is hitting all of his beats with his macro right now, getting those units out. The big problem for him right now, of course, are the upgrades.
And here comes the next engagement, while Bbyong is trying to establish himself a third base, a third command center. So important for him here. Macro-wise, he is really in a good spot, but the fight here might decide his fate in Game 2. Tails is trying to force an engagement, and the CJ Entis player pulls all his SCVs to assist in the battle.
Yeah, the SCVs, though, unfortunately not able to do a ton of DPS. The Stalkers blink away. He gets a fairly favorable engagement, but the problem is just look at how many Stalkers that is. It's so difficult to fight against us, even with Marauders.
Yeah, Bbyong definitely trying to soak up a bit of damage with the SCVs, but the main, of course, bulk of the army consists of Marauders, and they're trying to stem in, stutter step forward, and now we have this blink battle. Tails just trying to move individual units to the back of the army, but in the end, it is Bbyong who wins the engagement and forces the Protoss player to retreat.
I actually can't believe that even with good Blink Stalker Michael Tails, that Bbyong was able to do so well in that fight. I mean, he was extremely Marauder heavy, and knowing that you're facing a Blink Stalker heavy army, that's the composition you want to build. But that was really a sight to see, just watching those Stalkers blink back. And still, even though he won the fight temporarily, he may not win the war with all those Blink Stalkers warped, and he's now back up to 11. But the problem is Bbyong has taken a supply lead here in workers, and he's got the better tech, arguably, coming out with these medevacs. Where's the area of effect? He hasn't started +2 yet. There it is.
And a big problem now, of course, for Tails is that he's behind with one base, and we will have 3 potential mules for Bbyong. So he has all these orbitals. This will give him an advantage in income. And Tails is going to be on the defensive from now on.
Yeah, this is going to be a situation where Tails can try to fake some pressure, try to poke out a little bit to keep Bbyong on the defensive, but he's the one who's got to get those upgrades out. He really needs them. He needs that charge upgrade as well. And without Colossi, you're really playing with fire against an army like this. You need some sort of area of effect, or at the very least charge.
And this is a result of Tails being very aggressive with his gateways that he added earlier. We mentioned that he didn't add a robotics, that he was going straight into the Twilight Council for the Blink Tech and now charge. With all these upgrades that he has a very beefy gateway army, but he is lacking this area of effect damage. He doesn't have Storm, he doesn't have Colossi. He is really lacking in this aspect, and this is of course something that Bbyong can capitalize on.
Yeah, and that's why these medevacs are so scary. When you have this many medevacs, it's so hard to actually kill the Terran units. They get low. With this many medevacs healing them, they finish their health back up to the top. Just watch how scared Tails is from engaging here. If you look at the size of the army, by how big of a footprint it makes on the map, it almost looks like Tails has a much superior army. But Bbyong just has a great composition. The upgrades are really going to come into Tails' favor. Bbyong knows that he needs to attack right now.
And he is starting to be a little bit more aggressive here. Wants to move up the choke point, kills the rocks to make sure that 1 force bolt is not going to be enough to split his army. The medevac a bit overzealous here.
Yep.
Nearly dying.
Look at Tails' patience with the Force Seals. I really enjoy to see this. Force Seals go down, but he's got to pull the Zealots back afterwards. And 2-2 is not quite done. He wants to wait just a little bit longer. Meanwhile, the third Nexus is almost complete.
Bbyong again trying to find an angle to move up the ramp. The force fields for Tails are decent but not perfect. And here we have the Terran player engaging, but most of his army is stuck behind the force fields to the left side.
And so are the Zealots, though, so he has to pull those back. A lot of the army supply for Tails is in sentries, and they just don't do a lot of damage.
140 supply now for Bbyong, and he is moving in, and he takes down Tails in game number 2. GG.
Wow, what a game there. It just looked like, with the upgrades finishing up and all the sentries he had to buy time with the force fields, he might be able to hold, but at the very end of the day, because he had so many sentries, in fact, his army just couldn't kill the Terran units.
Yeah, it was well played by Bbyong. He advances to the second round of Code A, whereas Tails now finds himself in Code B once again. Very unfortunate for the MVP Protoss player. He has to go through the ordeal of the Code A qualifier once more, and we are having a short break before we head into Seed versus Center.